Hello and welcome to the behind the scenes of the Small Loft Workshop. I've been meaning to make this video for a while, and whilst I'm recovering from the effects of COVID-19, I thought now was a perfect time as I'm struggling to spend any prolonged time in the workshop. The OSB desk I made last year on this channel is the nerve centre of the Small Loft Workshop. It is here that all the ideas are formulated and all the editing takes place. And the first thing I like to do when I make a movie is sit down and write out a few key scenes from what will be the movie. Once I have an idea of what I'm going to make, I can now go to the workshop and figure out how I'm going to make it. I can work out my cutting list, I can look at my materials I already have to see whether I've got enough stock, and I can reconfigure my workshop with everything being on wheels to suit the workflow that is to come. Over the months I've been making these videos, I've realised how important lighting is to each scene. Not only have I got 24,000 lumens of LED lights in the roof, I have mobile lights and I have camera lights. My main footage and audio within the workshop is captured on my Sony a6400 camera. I really like this camera. For me, it's simple to use but yet captures very good quality 4K footage. The microphone is made by Rode. Sometimes to get the best shot, and also whilst working in such a small place, the camera becomes central in the workshop and I have to work round it. Setting up the camera and filming the footage takes quite a long time. And sometimes the camera captures things you really wish it hadn't. My other camera is a GoPro Hero 9, and again really like this camera, and it's the one that I would choose to keep if I had to give one up. It's the one I take out of the workshop if I'm on sites, or it's the one I take over to workshop number 2 when I'm over in France. As a smaller camera on a small flexible tripod, it's good to get into places that I struggle to get the Sony into, especially when space is tight, so I usually have it stood on my bench or on one of the shelves around the workshop. I also use this camera in portrait mode to capture some of the shorter videos I put on TikTok and Instagram. And I also use it when filming close up with some of my mobile lighting. With the amount of time the joinery takes and the filming takes, there is nothing more frustrating than if the camera goes flat in the middle of shooting a scene. Then you've got to suspend your works and wait for some charge. So I always keep my cameras on charge at all time. And finally, in the joinery phase, it's always good to try and keep the workshop as clean and tidy as you can, especially in such a small space. Once filming is complete, it's now a case of transferring all the footage over to my computer. I tend to transfer the data over to an external SSD. There are a few reasons why I do this. Firstly, it stops clogging up the hard drive of my Mac, and secondly, it means I can edit on the go if I need to between my Mac and my iPad. When editing on my Mac, I tend to use Final Cut Pro. I moved to Final Cut Pro a few months ago, and I'm still learning this absolutely vast piece of software. After all, it's a professional grade editing tool. First thing I need to do once all the clips are inside the software is cut out all the huge pauses, usually when I'm looking for a tape measure. It's quite often I start with 6 or 7 hours of footage and whittle it down to 12 minutes before finally caressing it into the finished video. Once I'm happy with the movie content, it's then a case of adding the voiceover. I have to say adding the voiceover to the video is not my favourite part. This is because, like a lot of content creators, we don't really like the sound of our own voice. And that's because we don't actually hear the sound of our own voice. We hear the vibrations within our head rather than the voice through our ears. So when we listen to it back through the computer, it just sounds weird. If you've ever left a greeting on your voicemail, you know what I mean. And once I've done the voiceover, the last bit for me is finding some music. I find my music from a website called Epidemic Sound. I do know through comments that music is not to everyone's liking, but as a musician, I really like finding music and discovering new artists. For me, one of the best woodworking videos on YouTube is Laura Kampf's Tiny Workbench. There is not one spoken word within that movie. Go and find it, it's fantastic. Finally, before pressing the export button, I add a couple of subscribe buttons, which reminds me to kindly ask you to subscribe to my channel if you like my woodworking content. The last thing I do before getting the video ready for upload is to create the thumbnail. The thumbnail is the small picture you see when you click on one of my movies. Usually right at the end of my filming sequences, I spend a few minutes just messing about basically, pulling various poses and faces, so when I put the film into my editing software, I can try and pull out from there a decent thumbnail shot. Once I've found an interesting image within the footage, my software allows me to download that specific frame. To design and publish the thumbnail, I use a website called Canva. I use the free version. There is a more sophisticated version available should you pay the monthly subscription. But for me, I find the free version does what I need to do. I can import my photograph, size it. There are various options for adding text and simplistic icons. I then tweak the photograph coloration to make it pop and stand out a little bit, and then I download it ready for upload to YouTube. So let's export the movie from Final Cut Pro. Press export, give it a name, and I usually export in 4K and go and make a cup of tea whilst it's doing this. And then I can open the upload a video in the YouTube webpage, drag the video in and give it a name. How to make your tube behind the scones. Gee, my typing. Then it's just a matter of filling in the various boxes, giving it a title, assigning some hashtags, ticking the various boxes to agree to the terms of monetization, and then it's a matter of leaving YouTube to do its thing. I find a 10-minute 4K video takes about 2 hours for YouTube to totally upload it. Once YouTube has finished doing this, you can then add the cards at the end of the video and also some little mid cards should you wish. And the final piece of control you have as a content creator is to decide when to turn the video on to public so you guys can see it. After that, you're at the mercy of the algorithm. And then it's a case of just sitting back and watching the analytics rolling, or not. Depends how good your video were. And that's it guys, thank you for watching this video. I'm sorry it's not been totally about woodwork this time, and hopefully I'll be feeling much better, and next week we'll be back to woodworking. Thank you for watching.